Hello and welcome back to another episode of the It's Not Orange podcast. Back-to-back defeats for the Seasiders as we look to rectify our poor start to the season tomorrow against Huddersfield. The team doesn't look as cohesive as we thought, and the season obviously hasn't started as well as we all hoped. But we'll be previewing Huddersfield with a special guest from a Huddersfield podcast, giving us an insight of tomorrow's opposition, and we'll also quickly look back on the last week or so for Steve Bruce's men. We'll be as positive as we possibly can be, and we'll dissect things that we think potentially went wrong. And it'll be great to get your opinions for those on YouTube. So please get involved as much as you can, and we'll discuss them on the show. Joining me this evening, as he did last week, is Martin. How are you?
I'm all right. Everything apart from the football is all cool. It's all good. Lots of golf, lots of sunshine, time with my daughter. But the football is, anyway, this is therapy, in it, as we always say. When things aren't right, this podcast is therapy. So for anybody listening and joining in, we can all be therapeutic together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just going to say that the famous saying goes, doesn't it? Football always gets in the way of a good time. And that was never truer than the last couple of days for Blackpool. So hopefully tomorrow it gets better. Good afternoon, Jaden. I don't know if you're in England or not. Some would call this evening, but I hope you're well. And welcome Will and others in the chat as well. We'll get to you as soon as possible. But before we start the football chat, a more serious matter to talk about. Earlier this week, a fellow Seasider passed away, and the name of Lou Parker, who was a lifelong Seasider who sadly lost his life. He's been a Blackpool fan all his life, been going to Bloomfield Road and home and away since he was a little kid. And he was had 4 kids, 12 grandkids, and one great grandchild as well. And he passed away on the 5th of August, and it's been made public this week. But what we want to get out is on the 71st minute, which was Lou Parker's age, there'll be a minute's applause at Bloomfield Road to remember Lou and share the good times with him, and hopefully Blackpool can put in a performance they'll be proud of as well. Martin, I don't know if you've got anything to say on the matter, but it's never nice to lose a fellow Seasider, and certainly not nice to lose a family member, of course.
No, sadly, it seems to be a really regular occurrence, doesn't it? I read quite a lot on AVFTT and things, and condolences to his family. We remember when we lost Rodri Davis last year, and these people are absolutely irreplaceable, and it totally puts football into perspective. It really does. I hope we win tomorrow for Lou and for his family. It's just really sad because people are completely irreplaceable, and football is just irrelevant. But I do hope that Blackpool can they will. The fans will pay tribute to him, and as I say, condolences to his family and his friends. It's a very sad time when we lose someone.
Yeah. You got to watch some fantastic times with Blackpool, of course, and hopefully he'll be looking down, like I say, on a buzzing Bloomfield Road and 3 points. But remember, on the 71st minute, there'll be around a minute's applause, in memory of Lou Parker. Moving on then, Martin, I'd like to introduce the lineup from the weekend. It seems like a lifetime ago because of Port Vale in the way, I suppose, and yeah. Exeter was obviously the last league game, which made it 2 defeats in a row, 1 at Bloomfield Road and, of course, 1 away from home. But we reverted back to a more traditional, what we used to under Bruce, a 4-4-2. And did you have any complaints sort of with the lineup in terms of the first 11? You could absolutely say it was good enough to beat an Exeter side, which Sam on the preview show said he was really worried about playing us. Obviously, come the 90th minute, he was probably buzzing and several beers down, thinking what had just happened. But we started off with Peacock, Farrell, Lyons, and Coulson as wing backs. Obviously, not too much choice in the left and right back positions, but of course we could have had Ashworth there. Heckway and Casey made up the centre back pair, and one again before the season you'll be buzzing about. Honeyman was still played out wide with Hansen, and then we had Evans and Brown in the middle, and then the traditional Ennis and Fletcher up top. If it weren't for a admin error from Blackpool, we would have maybe started with Dale Taylor, who we announced obviously on Saturday, or Friday, was it? No, it's Friday.
Right.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Sorry, we announced him. Sorry.
Been a long week, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a very long week, and yeah, we were buzzing obviously to get him signed, but it turns out an error in terms of us registering the player, and the EFL, as Bruce rightly pointed out, didn't help him at all, apparently. he wasn't even in the squad to add that bit of quality to us. So first and foremost, you can't get any more Blackpool FC than making Ladman to sign to make sure a player's registered for Saturday, I suppose. But other than Dale Taylor being announced, obviously, which was an incredible bit of money being spent, I suppose, if you want to touch upon that before we talk about the lineup, obviously 1.2 million potentially with add-ons. And we have truly used some of the millions that we've made in recent weeks on the likes of Apter, etc. Joseph, and we've spent obviously money on wages this summer, as well as the permanence of the likes of Ennis and others, and more so Dale Taylor more recently. You're talking 6 figures, which is fantastic, and it's been a long time since we've signed anyone like that. Potentially a record fee with the add-ons. Obviously, Campbell's up there, of course, but it's nice to see us spend some money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think as we all said, you've got to give the club some credit. I think for the first time in a while, that when a player's been sold, I'm not saying, I mean, I'm not, you know, these days the money doesn't appear down an oyster-shaped bucket, does it? But they have done what they said they were going to do at that fans forum and look to reinvest the Joseph money. Then obviously we weren't expecting maybe to sell Apter this quickly, but we did. And it's great to see somebody come in for over £1 million plus the other players we've signed on really good contracts and things. So the investment has been there on the playing side, which is much, much better than it has been. So it was great to get it over the line, because the longer that went on, the more twitchy people got, which is understandable. Let's face it, Blackpool, things go wrong. If it's not off the pitch, it's on the pitch. And then, of course, he signs, and like you say, we can't register him. So it was like being back in the Oyston era just for a couple of hours on Saturday. But he will end up...
I think on Friday I said we'll win like 3-0 and Taylor will get a double
to
start his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it turns out he was never even going to play.
And they printed his shirt up, didn't they? So it's not like they were expecting him to play at one point, weren't they? Because it was all... Yeah. I think he was going to play or at least be on the bench. But it's a shame. But as Bruce rightly says, he is with us for 4 years. So hopefully he can hit the ground running in a league game. I know he started Tuesday, but it will take time to bed in. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the lineup, you have to go with Fletcher if Taylor's wasn't available. He clearly doesn't rate Ashworth. I think we have to say that here and now. He doesn't rate Ashworth. The fullback position is a problem for us. And other than that, Honeyman wide. Maybe he thought it was too early to chuck Malcolm in. But Honeyman is a waste out wide. So it didn't look the best formation, but I still think we had enough to be competitive in that game. I really did. Yeah,
I can't disagree with you more with two of those comments. Obviously, one, we had enough quality on the pitch, and two, George Honeyman consistently being used. Well, I get it early doors, but in friendlies, and then now as a wide man, and obviously on Tuesday as well, when it came late on and we needed a goal, he kept him on the pitch and used him out wide as well, which what you basically do with that is you make the pitch more narrow, because he looks to drop inside to a bit like what Sonny Carey did, but without driving the ball forward. Technically, he's outstanding. Great to see him back, obviously, from his potential injury, which forced him to be in a boot. But obviously, recovery was really good for him, and he was probably used to that type of injury. But it narrows the pitch, and it doesn't add the greatest of speeds out wide. And what Bruce said he wants is 4-4-2 with two traditional wingers, and for us to get the ball into them, drive down the pitch, get the ball into the box and start making chances. And that unfortunately isn't going to happen when you've got George Honeyman there. Not a criticism of him, but he needs to start dictating play from the middle. And great that he was announced club captain in husband's absence, because I think he will be a real leader on both in the dressing room and on the pitch as well. So we'll see how that comes to fruition. But I suppose on to more negative news. We had a comment here, sorry, from Jaden. I'm glad he's on a 4-year contract, so hopefully we have another long servant. Yeah, absolutely. And or if he's sold within those 4 years, it means he's probably had some fantastic success and we're selling for a profit, and not that he's awful and we've had to get rid of him. But Martin, nowhere else to start apart from the first goal, and schoolboy doesn't even come to mind when we get caught out with a quick throw, and we have, I think, Evans, Casey, Ihekwe all running with their backs towards where the throw-in's taken, they're not watching the throw first and foremost, and then gets them to obviously be sprinting back because of the space. Coulson then drops left into almost a centre-back position. The ball comes across goal. We don't deal with it. And despite there being 2 or 3 players behind Reece Cole who slams it home, It goes past both Peacock, Farrell, and Evans, who tries to block it on the line, and it was a catastrophe of a start. And it felt like it was pre-season with the way they sort of set up. And if you just watch it, if someone watches that for the first time, they'll probably just laugh and say, what on earth is 4 or 5 players doing? Because we're not quick to react to a throw. And obviously we're not very good at dealing with the attack anyway. And it was a smart finish somewhat, but you'd like to see it blocked way before that.
You summed it up. It's embarrassing. It's such a like I say, a pre-season try to shake the rust off kind of goal to concede, isn't it? And they just, no one looked switched on, alert to it. No one looked like they were communicating. It was just they must have thought it was Christmas, Exeter, when you have a start like that. I mean, we scored early against Stevenage, but I still think we had to work a bit harder than they did for that goal. But it was just like you say, a quick throw in, and people are just not switched on to runners. They're not switched on to each other and to what's going on. And before you know it, and even when he has the chance, you think, well, someone's going to get in the way and block this. But it just set the tone, and it's a mountain to climb. It's such a long journey, and I feel so sorry for anybody that went. I mean, obviously we had the luxury of, well, I had the luxury in inverted commas of watching it at home. But to anybody that went, it's just that horrible stomach churning feeling when you get settled into your seat, and then before you can drink your drink or whatever, the ball's in the back of the net, and it's just a nightmare psychological start. It's just a blow, isn't it? It's just an absolute hammer blow. But then still plenty of time to recover. But we didn't.
We didn't recover, and 7 minutes later, that hammer blow became 2 hammer blows, because Exeter's second was as laughable as the first, and so was the third, and so was the fourth. So we will come on to talk about them, of course. But as you know, the cross is whipped in. It meets the header of the Huddersfield player. The name evades me right now, but both Heckway and Peacock Farrell don't deal with it. Remember Marv's a couple of times a few seasons ago used to stick his leg out on the ball. Like I think Charlton was one of those games, and a few times the centre back kind of just attempts to try to block the ball. Now, so you probably can't blame Heckway for doing so, but obviously it's not the best of situations when you stand in front of the goalie and it goes to the direction that Peacock Farrell's not expecting it. I really don't want to use him as a scapegoat, but the ball seems to be travelling. Not only does he head it from 12 yards out, let's just say maybe 11 yards out, not only does it hit Heckway's foot really slowly, it then deflects incredibly slowly. He then gets some hands to it and then fails to sort of dig it out of the goal. So 50-50, it's a horrible deflection, don't get me wrong, but the header seems to be so weak that I do not know how it wasn't blocked by first Heckway in terms of reactions, or to Peacock Farrell obviously stopping it going into the net. An even more sort of laughable goal to concede, I suppose. If that was the first goal, you could probably say, yeah, fair enough. But after this first goal, you're kind of just grinding your teeth a little bit and thinking, what is going on? Because this is a continuation from last week.
Yeah, you're right. Again, it's a comedy of errors, and the goalkeeper has taken a lot of stick. And look, at the end of the day, we're all human as football fans. We get so frustrated when people make mistakes, and when a goalie makes a mistake, as everyone says, 9 times out of 10, it means it's in the net. He possibly has had criticism for the odd mistake or what looks like a mistake that isn't. But you have to say that I just think generally we've all seen football, haven't we? Right, through the years, and you can tell when a goalkeeper, even if he doesn't make a mistake, goalkeepers can either exude confidence or make people feel really nervous. And he looks nervous, doesn't he? Even doing the most routine thing when he'll come out for a ball that requires a fairly basic bit of goalkeeping on a technical side, and it's like bouncing off his chest, or he's punching everything when he could be catching something. He just looks like someone who is confidence-wise really struggling. But the second goal, yeah, you said it when you saw it back, it looked like it's going in about 2 miles an hour, and he should be. You think that between the two of them, they should have kept it out. Ultimately, he's the last line of defence. That's what a goalkeeper is, and when it comes down to him, he doesn't do his job properly either on that occasion. So yeah,
we'll come on to talk about Peacock Farrell in a minute, and maybe Bruce's even comments on him from Lanks, but it was just a horrific goal to concede. But we haven't got loads of time to discuss the Exeter game, nor, if I'm being blunt, we don't want to. That would be a long podcast based on absolutely no positivity. We'll talk about some positivity. A good free kick to win sort of on the edge of the box, and we all know what Evans can and can't do, and more recently, what he can't do is impacting us quite a lot in the centre of the park. But a fantastic delivery into the danger zone. I think potentially Exeter's keeper's got a little bit of criticism to come his way as well, because the header seems to be quite directly in the middle of the goal. He probably felt like he should have saved this header as well, but great for Fletcher to meet the fantastic free kick, and obviously get his season off to a goal scoring start, which took one game longer than last season. But fingers crossed this season's start is a lot more consistent for Fletch. But it was a good header. Like I said, probably 50-50. The keeper thought he should have saved it, but great to see it hit the back of the net, and kind of an immediate response sort of 6 minutes later, and you think, game on, we're going to wake up a little bit here.
Yeah. And it should have been the cue for a much better performance, shouldn't it? You know, you've had an awful start. You get given a lifeline. It's, you know, he takes it well, and it's good to. Strikers need to get a goal early in the season, so it's good to see him get one quickly. But what followed was not an awful lot, really. I still think we looked really, really impotent, really blunt in attack, and we just didn't build on it at all. We didn't build on it. So it's a positive, but it's not. It was a very fleeting one, wasn't it?
It's a positive if we didn't know what happened afterwards. But yeah, I mean, great for Fletch. Good assist from Evans, but as you can see from the stats in the first half, that was our only shot on target. And there's a plethora of shots for Exeter who should have made their domination in that first half count a little more. Martin, I think you said pre-pod, if they scored 4 or 5 in that first half, we were lucky to escape with being only 1 goal down. And I think Josh said it in the chat as well. I caught up. Weird place to be in 2025 was Norfolk, because it's still, you can't get any phone signal apart from in about a few locations where you stand. So at 2-1, I thought, I'll turn my phone back on and we might get a positive result out of it. And when I saw the Twitter feed and the 292 messages on my phone, I thought it was time to put the phone down and carry on watching Dick and Dom on the live stage. But no, moving on. I mean, they could have had a lot more goals in that first half, and I kind of wanted just to talk about the lack of quality. And I put this for the audio listeners in inverted commas, because we've already discussed it. That the first 11 and even some of the substitutes are obviously, they're more than adequate to give anyone a game in this league. But it seems like we're horrifically lethargic, and someone said it last week, where they're fit but not match fit, they're not sharp, they're not reactive. But aside from all of that, let's say aside from the fitness, there seems to be a real lack of, or there was a lack of desire in this game for not only the shirt but to kind of fight for each other. And I don't know if that comes from being a new team, like what said, there was, like, I think on Tuesday there was only 2 players from before Bruce's time, so this is a brand new team. But there also seems to be a lack of basic understanding of what we wanted to do, because before we talk about the last 2 goals and move on to Port Vale, there was a severe lack of game plan. But not only that, if we played Bolton or someone like Peterborough, I know they're not as good, but they've got fast players, Cardiff, Bolton, Huddersfield, anyone like that. It took 2 passes from Exeter over the centre midfield for them to be on goal practically. And because the defence was so weak and naive in terms of their positioning and not working as a 4, I almost guarantee we probably conceded 5, 6, 7 goals potentially that game with better quality on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. They play on Radio Lancashire. They had Brett Ormerod in the studio in Blackburn, kind of talking to the commentator, and he said after 10 minutes, Blackpool need to make a change here, because in midfield, being totally overrun, their 3 is absolutely pummeling our 2. And sometimes that doesn't always transpire, but in that game, it was pretty blatantly obvious. And Brett Ormerod's played football long enough to know he could spot it. I think everyone watching it could spot it, but he didn't change it, and he didn't change it in the second half either. So there was a lack of quality in people stepping up, but I do think we were just being overrun, and it was like we just thought we would somehow, get around them somehow. But there was definitely a lack of, almost like a lack of numbers in that midfield. We look completely and utterly bamboozled by them, and it seemed like a fairly basic change to make, but we didn't make it. And they opened us up. They opened us up, and with better finishing, honestly, that could have been instead of being semi-embarrassing, it could have been very, very embarrassing. Really could.
Yeah, well, I think it was embarrassing. I think Bruce quote
Yeah.
off said the worst afternoon since I've arrived at the club, and that says a lot. And we can't continue that sort of performance. Obviously, I think Tuesday was a bit more positive, although not a lot to dissect in terms of that game. But we'll come on to that in a second. But it took obviously until the third goal to come in for him to make the substitutions and try to impact the game a little bit more. But for me, if you're gonna, we've got Honeyman for me as a centre mid with Morgan, Evans, and Brown, of course, the four that should rotate, or you start to change the system. And in my opinion, either play a 3 or 2 sitting with Honeyman dictating play, behind some strikers. I'm not Steve Bruce, but that's rigid 4-4-2 without 2 CDMs, so to speak, and letting the wingers do the work in the attack. We are going to lose a lot of games this season by being over on a midfield if Evans continues to play, because he kind of wants to dictate play, but he hasn't got the pace to pick up the ball. Whereas Morgan likes to dictate play, and he can run, and he can tackle. So I'd like to know what Brown and Morgan brings, or Morgan and Honeyman will bring in the future. I don't see Brown not starting many games, but I don't think we can play a rigid 4-4-2 when Evans is playing as much as I think he would suit a 3 better, because he hasn't got the ability to run, and we're not the team that's dictating play at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see. I just want to touch upon. I don't really want to talk about the 4th goal, because that, in my opinion, is the worst.
It is. I agree.
However, I want to talk about the 3rd goal, which is a similar sort of position in terms of the cross coming in for Blackpool's goal a bit further out.
Yep.
The ball comes across the defenders, and there is 4 of Blackpool's, the defence, call it, some defensive ground, etc., all waiting to pick up a header across goal. Honeyman gets tangled in with some players. It's not a foul either way, in my opinion. It's just a tangling. The header comes across. Not only does Peacock Farrell do this completely random movement where he puts one arm in the air and doesn't really do anything towards the ball. He doesn't sort of come out to try and claim the ball, but also every single defender misses the ball and allows Jaden Wareham to poke home from close range. He should score, absolutely, but the ball should absolutely never, ever get to his path. And that 3-1 after you've conceded 3 horrendous goals, it was always going to be uphill from there.
Yeah. It was absolutely appalling. I can't think of 2 back-to-back games where we've literally just given, and I mean given away goals. They've not had to work for them. We have, you don't often see a team that ships goals that have such comedic kind of content. It's so bad, it's laughable. But yeah, that was the one that really, I mean, I got up out of my seat in my living room and just started shouting because that's the one where you kind of go, for God's sake, it was so preventable. And it's game over then, because they haven't got the heart and desire to come back. 2-1, anything could happen. Bit of luck, deflection here and there, goal from a corner. 3-1, there's no chance. Absolutely no chance. Not last Saturday. No chance. So yeah, it was probably the worst, because it's the final kind of nail in the coffin for me. Even though there was a 4th, that's just icing on the cake for them, isn't it?
Yeah, and if you think about the substitutions, we obviously had Malcolm and Hamilton on the 74th minute to try and obviously claw us back from 3-1, but Finnegan and Bloxham coming in for Lyons and Evans, I think it was, to try and add a bit of maybe pace and attack and prowess into the game. But in my opinion, you should sacrifice Evans and have Malcolm on the wing to give us more traditional wingers left and right, and obviously had 2 strikers. I won't talk about the 4th. Overall, Martin, it was a pretty horrific game, and we can't. It's only 2 games in. I'm not saying the season's over by any stretch, but you can't continue to start the season in this vein of form. And I know people have had worse August than that, and then obviously continue to drive on forward. But we want to start to see, if we are going to lose tomorrow, as an example, you want to start seeing some cohesion and some ability on the pitch and signs that it's going to get better. And that kind of did happen on Tuesday, but obviously that type of performance and the way we've conceded goals can't obviously continue. And not only will Bruce have more critiques, of course, if it doesn't get any better, obviously the Blackpool fans won't stand for conceding goals like that week in, week out.
No, they won't, because so much expectation has been placed on the club by the fact that who the manager is, and the fact, like we touched on before, they've invested. It's not like we've got a ton of League One and League Two free transfers. We've invested heavily in players that other clubs wanted. So the transfer window's been one of the most exciting we've had in years. And then to start like that, people are disappointed and annoyed. And it doesn't matter who you are or which club you are. If you've done what we've done over the summer, a start like that can be tolerated to a certain extent. But if we were sat here in 2 weeks and we were talking about having no points on the board, then there's some massive questions have to be asked. Maybe a game against a really good team, weirdly, is the way that we need, is what will ignite us.
I wouldn't want anyone else really other than another top
Bolton,
team on Saturday to
I
really react to.
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't want to be playing Northampton away or at home right tomorrow. I really wouldn't. We need a game where the crowd might be up for it, and they're going to be bringing it 2,000 and odd, and we need it. But then obviously we'd say we need to touch on the Port Vale game briefly, which was a weird one.
Yeah, we're gonna for the listeners, we're going to talk about basically the key points that I want to discuss with Martin and get his views on it. And feel free to add comments in the chat as well. We'll do this for 5 or so minutes because our guest Steve has joined us, who's a Huddersfield fan. But I've named this section "Why Martin," and I've got an abundance of questions about the lineup first and foremost. Although on the screens it shows a 3-5-2, we set up with Brown at right back, Heckway and Casey at centre back, and obviously Coulson as left back. Hansen left midfield, Honeyman played in the centre with Evans, Hamilton played right wing, and then we had Taylor and Bloxham up front. So some positive changes, but the questions I have first and foremost is why wasn't Ravazoli given a start? My only opinion and logical opinion is he wanted to get the victory versus Port Vale and give Peacock Farrell a win under his belt going into the weekend, but evidently we didn't win, and now he's got an even bigger decision to make, and he's either got to stick to his guns with Peacock Farrell or he's got to go against his words, what he said about Peacock Farrell, and start Ravazoli. So your opinions on why he didn't start?
Well, I think I agree with you. I think he wanted to try and get a win under his belt, maybe get, Peacock Farrell can have a clean sheet and then try and rebuild some confidence. But having said that, though, you expect changes, don't you, for a League Cup game? I mean, they made 9 Port Vale.
Yeah.
So if you've got two first-team goalkeepers, it's not unheard of, is it? In fact, it's completely expected to change the goalkeeper. So my only, like I said to you just before you came on air, is that maybe he is picked him in that game to give him one last chance because he is going to go with Ravazoli in the league. But his comments suggest that that's probably not the case. But I'm hoping that I've read it wrong and that we're going to see a change in goal tomorrow. But I don't know. I would have played Ravazoli all day long. Of course I would. Maybe he thought that, as I say, a win or a clean sheet would give him a boost of confidence. But he hasn't learned anything else, has he? Whatever he was thinking of, it hasn't been to anyone's benefit, has it?
No, absolutely. My next question is, we played Brown at right back, who I would be gagging to see in the midfield with Honeyman without Evans there, in my opinion. And his distribution and some of the stuff he did was awful, and some of the stuff he did I thought was fantastic. He had a bang average game, but he's not a right back, and that is so evident to see. I know he's played there before, but play him in his natural position, please. But this was a real chance for me, and the reason I've named this segment why is because it's a real chance for me to play Ravazoli, to play Lyons at right back, who's a natural right back, to get his fitness up and obviously give him another opportunity to impress Bruce. Play your 2 centre backs, fine. Don't play Coulson because he's carrying an injury. Not only is that a known fact, he's also said it, and Bruce has said, he's continuing with a knock. So play Ashworth, see what he can do. No one cares if we don't play well, and he gives these players an opportunity. Then you start Hamilton, who hasn't played for a very long time, instead of at right wing, and when you could have played Malcolm to start there. Keep Hansen there, or play Hamilton there at left wing and give Hansen a rest for Saturday. And then you've got Bloxham, who could have played obviously right wing, but obviously played up front with Taylor, who has not many minutes. It just, if you've got the opportunity to do something different, play every player in their position and see what you can do as a 4-4-2, and instead you've put square pegs and round holes and confused the team a little bit more, annoyed the fans and given Port Vale a structure to build from, because at any point it didn't look very smooth and silky, did it?
No, there was a spell, I think midway, maybe after about half an hour, where we played some decent football for sort of 5-10 minutes, and we looked a decent team and a bit of a threat up front. But Taylor didn't get many touches of the ball, and there was absolutely no service.
Like 14 times, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I was going to say that. It couldn't have been very many into double figures.
12. Sorry.
There you go.
Nearly got it.
No, it didn't look right. And you know what? It's what I said to you before. If Ashworth's not getting a start in that game, I can only assume that he's been told, listen, we're going to find a loan for you, or you've got no future here. Because if he's not playing in that game, forget it.
But we haven't got another left back, so he's either signing one or he really just, I don't know. I can't answer it.
No, I can't. I mean, ultimately, that game was about getting minutes into the legs and trying people in the proper positions. Win or lose, I'd rather have seen a decent performance and go out of the cup. No problem with that. But I feel like we not only did we get it, we just basically gave it. I think after about 55 minutes, we just completely stopped any kind of semblance of decent play, and they were the better team. And for me, the goal was coming, and we just bowed out of it very, very. We just limped out of the cup, didn't we? Really, without much of a whimper.
Yeah, and there was a bit. You said that about half an hour we started to play well, and then there was a bit just after half time when we did really start to ping the ball about, and there was signs, and this is why I said it was more positive than Saturday, but there were some signs that we started to work a little bit more, but it didn't feel like we were getting the ball. My opinions are, I don't know if those of that are watching or listening, is that we played the ball in all the wrong areas. So we're pinging it about between the defenders, maybe Coulson and Brown were touching the ball. Evans would pick it up here and there and play a 70-yard pass to absolutely no one. He did that many times against Port Vale. He played a long ball forward, which it was nowhere near the strikers. That was... We moaned about his husband doing that. It was even worse when your midfielder's doing it, we know he's got an excellent pass. I mean, no can seek a pass out. Just seems to not look up and play a long ball forward, which gave them momentum just to reset and us not to build on it. There was a little bit of attack and a flurry, just after half time. I think Brown had a fantastic shot. But as you can see, overall, we had 2 shots on target. They had 3. One of theirs obviously was a bullet header, which went between some defenders we didn't deal with because, as Bruce said, we didn't learn to deal with them because of zonal marking. Have to go back to man for man because it's been our Achilles heel this season so far. It is a really good connection on the header. Should Peacock Farrell save it? It's practically gone past his hand, obviously at the kind of near post, isn't it? But you've also got to say, why was he allowed to header it when we've got about 6 men in the box?
Yeah. Yeah, it was another, and they nearly scored just before, didn't they? Same lad, it's Farl, isn't it? It was on loan from Wrexham.
Yeah.
Nearly scored a few minutes before, and I wasn't at all surprised. I think, I think if we're being totally honest, I think the goalkeeper needs to take some responsibility. I feel that he should be saving it. A lot of people have said that it's unfair to blame him, but to me, it looks like he should have saved it. But this
he probably should make a better contact with it.
Yeah.
Between just blaming Farrell and again, like letting them win every single header on the pitch. They look like scoring every time they got the ball into the box.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say is that Hansen has had a little bit of criticism after that game, saying that he wasn't really at it. But it worries me that Hansen's been a good player at the club in Holland where he was, and until he got the injury for Birmingham. And when you start off as badly as we've done as a team, though, players like him can look like bad players because it just isn't working, and he didn't get into the game as much. But I just don't think the movement is right, and he's not on the same wavelength yet. But it doesn't bode well for a flair player in our team right now, does it?
Because we're not getting the ball into wingers. No. That's the problem. We're not feeding them down the wing to cut inside. When he did get the ball, he looked to be positive, and I just think we're so lethargic that we're not like working towards the strength for these players. And I think Bloxham looked pretty good. I think we can't really judge Taylor. I thought Casey was back to being much more solid in terms of reading the game and running with the strikers. I thought we were obviously a little bit more organised. I think it's a poor goal to concede. I'd like to see us being more attacking. I'd like to see obviously win the game a bit at all, let alone comfortably going into Saturday. I think there were signs there of us improving. We were playing safe a lot of the time, and we were allowing them to have comfortability in the game and not making them feel edgy. I think if we scored one, we would have scored 2 or 3, but we kind of need that first or second goal like we showed against Stevenage before we start to get going. But it is early doors, but I thought there was positive signs there. My last question before we bring Stephen in, I suppose, is we'll talk about cohesion and fitness. When we were looking for a goal, he still kept Honeyman on the pitch and pushed him wide instead of playing 2 wingers or bring another striker on like Kouassi, which I understand is looking to go on loan. But if there's any game you're going to do something like that, even Stevenage at home, throw Kouassi on and see what you can do by getting balls into box or playing it up front. It just wasn't our evening, but we also didn't do a lot to help ourselves.
No, I wonder if he just has this idea that once he's made his mind up that players aren't really in his plans, he's just not going to use them. Maybe he's trying to do the decent thing and make sure they don't get injured because he's promised them. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. When you've got a lack of attacking threat and you've got him there, you might as well use him. But I think he's the writing's on the wall for these players, and he's just going to refuse to use them. So I think maybe he's just sticking to that. I don't know. It doesn't help the overall kind of the greater good of the team, though, does it really? Because we know you never know, a quick ball into the box and a decent header, and you could be going to penalties and going through to the next round. But then we would have got Sheffield United or Birmingham, wouldn't we? So
doesn't work like that, Martin.
It doesn't, does it?
The draw doesn't work like that. We would have got Everton away, and we would have had a great afternoon.
Everton away, what I was hoping for, yeah. But look, it is what it is. It's a missed opportunity to. For some positivity, whichever way you look at it. Get to play well, get to penalties, lose, who cares? But there was no. I didn't really feel particularly positive after watching. It
was a hard game to watch, but I think there was, in terms of what Bruce wants, there was signs of us being a little bit better in terms of defensive, general play, but not from set pieces. But look, we can talk about this. The cows come home, but a couple of comments in the chat before we bring in Steve. It does it most games. Is it Evans passing or a player's not reading him? I think it's Evans passing. I think at the start of last season, we saw so many times him assisting or playing some directional balls into players. You can't really account for Evans picking up the ball, taking a touch to knock it to his right and then pinging it 70 yards when Ennis or Bloxham or anyone is nowhere near the ball. Like, you're going to have to ask them to run like Usain Bolt just to pick it up and run into the channels. Like, unless it's a game plan, it clearly isn't working. And when Husband did it, I said the same thing. You can't play a long ball down the line when you're trying to play good football. He wants good attacking football. Pinging a ball 70 yards isn't that. It also allows Port Vale just to be comfortable on us to run out of ideas and not build any momentum at all. That's my opinion. And then Luke, evening, mate, hope you're well. It felt like we was playing safe. He kept coming back because he had no one to link with. Yeah, that was Evans as well. But yeah, he didn't. And I don't think Finnegan is anywhere near this level as much as I wanted to see him give it a chance. He's clearly not got the quality as we need to get promotion. And if before we bring, I guess, Martin, 2 things I want to quickly touch upon. Morgan looks like he'll be back on the bench at least tomorrow, which we need. I think he should replace Evans, and we can play a 3 with him, Morgan and Honeyman, or he can go back into a 2. I think he'll come back for Tuesday. I think he'll start after the games have come thick and fast. And obviously Bruce has said in lengths this year, and I quote, or don't worry about it. Like, we're going to be absolutely fine. And he said, make no mistake about it. We're going to be fine, and we're going to start playing football. It's good to say these things, of course, and it's things we want to hear, but we need to see that tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to say anything different, really, is he? But the only way you can justify that is by actually doing it and by being much, much, much better. And we need to be better in every single department of the pitch. There isn't one department of the pitch so far that's been right. Not one. Individual players have had a good spell, or Honeyman's impressed when he, but we're only two in a silly cup game in, but nothing. Well, our Huddersfield guest will be rubbing his hands because nothing's working really at the moment. It better click tomorrow, otherwise we'll be in trouble.
I think it'll be a good game tomorrow. I think the
Yeah,
last game against Huddersfield was fantastic, and
yeah.
we move on. Welcome, Stephen. How you doing, bud? Second appearance on the show.
Yeah, thanks very much, chaps, for having me on. Really great to be here again. To be honest, lads, having listened to you for the last 10 minutes, I felt like you lads last season. To be honest, like got 3 games in and we were like, oh, well, season's done, isn't it? Because we won on the opening day against Peterborough, and then after that, it all just fell to bits, and eventually you get knocked out in January by a non-league team with a load of plumbers in the FA Cup. So, yeah.
We generally, as fans, we have this recency bias, don't we? And I'm not sounding too disheartened because I still, despite Huddersfield fan not liking him, I still trust Bruce to get things right. And we saw against the likes of you last season away from home how well his formation and how well the wingers can work. I just think it needs to click. When we got promoted under Critchley for the first 10 games, I thought we were going to get relegated. We end up being promoted because something just clicks and it starts to work and you get players back and you have special moments. So I'm hoping it starts Saturday and we give you a good game and you don't sort of turn us over and it becomes a bit of a laughing stock. So I want to start this little preview with talking about a manager I wasn't really sure should he be joining your club or not, and that's of course Lee Grant. I'm not doubting his prowess in football and his experience, but when he got, when we kind of expect as outsiders and probably internally Huddersfield to get promoted, it was potentially a rogue choice to go with it, sort of a young aspiring coach.
Well, collectively, I would say, 16 to 17,000 fans went, eh? What
I think that's what happened when we done Bruce as well, to be fair.
Yeah, what's happened there then, because obviously we've gone from the thing with Town over the last 5 seasons, really, we've flip-flopped between a bit like a very poor Man United team, that where they flip-flop between management and styles and, formations and all that sort of stuff. And that's been the same at Town, really. You've gone from experienced managers like Darren Moore and Michael Duff to then, inexperienced managers like, even going back to Carlos Corberan and Johnny Worthington took us for 10 games last year. And obviously now we've ended up with Lee Grant. All we kind of knew about Lee Grant was he'd been under Kieran McKenna at Ipswich for 3 years. He'd done 4 years at Man United as 5th choice goalkeeper or whatever he was / coach. So he'd learned, quite a lot under the coaches there, even though Man United have been crap for 10 years. He's still picked up, plenty of tips from world-class coaches. And apart from that, really was his playing days, being a goalkeeper at Sheffield Wednesday and Derby, to be honest. I think most fans were like, right, cool, well, we best get on board with this because, again, I like all fans, really, of clubs. You try and give your manager a bit of encouragement, don't you, and sort of get behind him and think, well, it could be different this time. I think the difference with Grant compared to what Duff we had with Duff last season is that last summer we kind of had half a cleared out, but not a proper cleared out, and then we kind of bought players that we thought, yeah, they're the best sort of players in League One, but it was kind of a basis built on sand. Where this season, they've gone in for players like Alfie May again, people like Joe Lowe, who had an excellent year at Wickham, and then Championship players like Ledson and Watmore, who have been excellent in playing in the Championship for many years. So I think although Lee Grant and his coaching staff are inexperienced, what they have is they've got real living football experience, if you know what I mean. So they've worked hard to get where they are. They've got a squad that's virtually brand new and that's got a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of new leaders in there. And that's why kind of it's worked, really. So far, anyway, fingers crossed it might all go belly up when we come to your gaff at the weekend, but hopefully not.
Yeah, you've already touched upon transfers, and I was going to say the spine of your team, all around the pitch, Ledson, Watmore, Alfie May, to name a few, have not only got guaranteed goals in them in terms of Alfie May, etc. They've also got, like you say, the leadership ability to to really not be impacted if you go 1 or 2-0 down, as an example, when they know what they're doing, on the pitch as well. It's not like, I mean, we've picked up some quality signings, don't get me wrong, but on the face of it, you've got a squad really with not only some fantastic attacking players, but also the experience of Championship throughout it, and especially with the likes of Joe Lowe, etc., who should be playing the Championship, arguably, with Wickham. He was a quality defender that we were linked to under Critchley as well, and you've really got quality everywhere you look on the pitch, and that's something you couldn't say last year before you clear out, of course.
Yeah, 100%. And, obviously we were in for Horsfall, Fraser Horsfall, who you
And a
guys
Heckway.
got. I think that obviously a Huddersfield lad came out of our academy, watched him many a time for the under 18s and 19s and 23 team. And kind of I was excited about signing him from Stockport, but then obviously when we didn't get him and we went in for Watmore from Preston, I was a bit sceptical at the beginning, but he's come in and he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, the guy is solid as a rock at the back. Like I said, we got Joe Lowe from Wickham. We got Owen Goodman from Wimbledon, who had was one of the best keepers in League Two last year. So all over the pitch. I mean, one of the favourites that I've already decided is kind of one of my players of the season, and there's only 3 games gone, is Lyndon Gooch. I mean, the lad he's come from Stoke and obviously Sunderland, who we've now got in the cup, and he's just excellent. I mean, it's just looking at footballers, when you look at them on the pitch and you can tell that they've played at a really good level and they just know the positions inside out, such as like Marcus Harness is a good example of this. He just knows what to do at the right times. And a lot of the time last season, we were missing that. And I think over the last 2-3 seasons, the problem at Town has been the mentality of the players. We go 1-0 down and the fans would sit there home and away and go, well, that's us done now. We're not coming back from that. And even last season, we came to your place and it was a really exciting game, wasn't it? I think we came from 2-0 down and drew 2-2 with Spencer getting that great goal. So, the mentality this season is a lot better. Against Leicester in the Cup, we went behind twice and got it back. And you can see how the mentality is different. He's brought some youngsters in as well that have really made a difference and really stepped up to the plate, actually, which, last season when you looked at our squad, you kind of knew the 6, 7, 8 players that were going to play every week and they weren't under pressure. Everybody in this squad is under pressure to play. And if you don't play well, Grant's very made it clear that they won't be playing.
You've had, like you said, you touched on, you've had a really good start, and your first game was against Orient, wasn't it? Obviously beaten finalists last year. I know they've lost some players, but that could have been a really tough game. But it seemed that it was pretty comfortable. Was it as comfortable as the scoreline suggested, or was there more to it?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird one with Orient because we played them on the last day of last season and we lost 4-1 and they absolutely battered us. And we kind of, obviously by that stage, given up the ghost of any playoff place. Obviously that had happened a couple of games before. So we were kind of done, but they were really impressive. I think what you had to look with Leyton Orient squad is they relied on a lot of loans, and those loans have then gone back and been resurfaced elsewhere. They've tried to bring in permanent players. I like Richie Wellens as a manager. I think he's a good manager, particularly at this level. And, the quality that they've brought in is maybe not as high as what they had last season with the likes of Galbraith and Kelman, particularly, 2 players that you could pick out. They've signed Josh Karoma from us. As good as what Josh has been over, I think, 6 seasons at Town. I was kind of glad that we got him off the wage bill, really. And his heart was at Leyton Orient. That's where he was originally from. So they came on the first day with, I think they only had 3 players that played in the playoff final. Now, that's a massive difference, isn't it?
In 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, in 3 months to build an entire new squad, that's, it's quite impressive. So, they hit the post early on. We then hit the post straight afterwards, actually. And then kind of we took control and our midfield just stomped all over them, really, and suffocated them. And they had a couple of chances. But, really, we were that impressive particularly in the second half. We just sort of strangulated them and sent them home packing. Really, we no points, and then obviously we went on to Reading, and again I thought that was going to be a tricky fixture as well. You know, Noel Hunt, he's a bit of a Reading legend, isn't he? And you know, they've built a squad there that I don't think it's an amazing squad, but they've obviously got the spirit still from last year and everything that happened behind the scenes. And because that's been sorted now, you know, I just thought it's the first home game. It's kind of under the new ownership and all that. And I was a bit worried about it, really. And then we went to Reading and we just, I wouldn't say we sailed past them, but we were like, you know, when you just like see a mid-table team and then you're like a cut above, it was kind of like that feeling, really. We came away with
I don't think they'll be anywhere near. They've lost Nibs and a few other decent players, and they've replaced them with not a lot of quality, like likes of Crawley players and stuff like that. I just don't think they've built the squad, nor do they expect to with the takeover. Just immediately sign loads of players. I think they'll see this year out and then maybe build next year. But you're right. I think you were kind of, it's like you played 15, 20 games and they've just started sort of to build their squad up, I suppose.
Yeah, I still think they'll be top half, because I think the bottom of this division, as we all well know now, is pretty rubbish, isn't it? You know, so
it is. We're in
no, I know that you're down there now.
I think we're bottom, aren't we?
Yeah, I'll be honest, guys. I had you to finish as my surprise package in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I'll be honest,
the bottom four. Surprise! I'm joking.
I think it'll turn around for you, lads, to be honest. But you've got too good of a squad to not turn it round. I think the problem with Bruce is he's always been seen as an old-fashioned manager. He's going to get no love from town fans on Saturday. He doesn't love us. We don't love him. It's kind of a mutual relationship, really. So, you know, but I had you as down as dark horses. I'll be absolutely honest. I thought the business that you'd done in the window so far has been, you know, really good.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to take time. We've still got Imre to come back. Horsfall is injured. He's playing with an injury that me and Martin spoke about. Apparently, he's been playing with an ankle injury for all of pre-season. It's made it 10 times worse, and now he's out even longer, which seems bizarre to us that he was even allowed to play. But we'll go over Heckway and Casey tomorrow, and hopefully they're at it.
We were in for him as well.
There was this Huddersfield fan that put obviously those two coming soon, and then Blackpool fans obviously got all over it. But you're laughing now, I suppose, if I'm going to quote the Nigel Farage.
On our fans forum, there was kind of a joke for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like whenever we were linked with a player, somebody had immediately put after, Bruce will get him. He was talking about it. He'll go to Blackpool. Fish and chips are better at Blackpool than they are.
I'll still take Alfie May if you're willing to let him go, even though.
To be fair, lads, I think that was a given that we were going to get him to be like in the end. That's been quite a funny fixture signing, because obviously I don't know if you've both watched, but the Birmingham documentary came out.
Yep.
So literally like 3 weeks after he signed for us, obviously that documentary's come out, and in the documentary it goes, he obviously is very nice. Like I don't know whether they've cut any bits out of it, but I don't think, because he comes across as a decent lad, like, but he kind of said, well, I had to look after myself and my family, and kind of all town fans that have watched it have gone, actually, he's not really a bad lad, is he? That we were all saying last season when he dumped us in the last minute for Birmingham. So, yeah,
he did come across well in that documentary. Not many did, but he did, and he's a nice family and everything. But because they were just unpacking the boxes in that documentary, so presumably they had to pack them all back up again and go up to Huddersfield.
Well, I think his family live in Sheffield actually, because obviously he's been played for plenty of northern clubs, hasn't he? So I think his family live in Sheffield. But I know we've gone off a bit off piece, but the funniest bit in that documentary, 100%, was Wayne Rooney sat on that bike. And Brady's like, they're having that little chat, and it's just embarrassing, isn't it? Like, Rooney don't want to be there. Brady don't want to be talking to Rooney. It's just like, so are the team playing well? Yep. Is training going well? Yep. Any injuries? No.
It was
it's just funny as hell, wasn't it?
It was.
Right, I want to wrap this up in the next 10-15 minutes, gents, but talk to us about your main formation. Obviously, you can look at websites, but obviously, how does it look in game? How do you chop and change it sort of during that, or do you stick to a very rigid formation, and how do you look to play? I know you're heavily, I hate to say it, but you're heavily not reliant, but you work well with set pieces, which was, evidence against the likes of Leyton Orient as an example. We're not very good at set pieces at the moment, which, as I said to you on X, that you could have a field day with crosses into the box. So how do you look to play, and what do you think you'll do on Saturday in terms of trying to set up to win?
Well, I won't worry about crosses from open play because all our strikers are 5'3". But set pieces at centre backs.
Set pieces. Yeah,
we're quite handy at set pieces. The formation tends to be 4-2-3-1, but it's not a rigid, straightforward 4-2-3-1. So that can change to a 3 at the back. Mostly, what you'll see is, depending on the game plan, one full back will push up and one will stay back. To be a 3 at the back. So, for instance, I'll talk you through kind of how it was in the last game. So, Gooch would go forward on the right. Rowan, who we bought from Lincoln, would stay sort of back on the left. And then the right winger would go in to be a number 10, and the number 10 position would go up top. So, it's kind of a really fluid sort of motion that happens, but obviously it's worked for us over these 3 games. And then you'll have the 2 centre mids. They stay particularly in the middle of the park. They don't you won't see Ledson move within about 4 yards of you could draw a square around him. But he plays that position brilliantly. And then the other centre mid, he's got a bit more free movement, such as like Kasumu against Leicester. But obviously there is the main idea is that you don't get caught on a counter attack, but you win the ball high up. So, for instance, Ruben Ruskin, who's probably our best player at doing that, will very much press your fullback or your third centre back very high up the field and try and win the ball back high. The only way to sort of get round that, and I heard you talking about James Husband earlier pinging 70-yard balls, you probably will see a lot of that on Saturday, because the only way to get kind of behind us with this high line that we play is by playing a long ball and then using whatever pace you've got up top to outpace our centre-backs, which, although I'm very impressed with our back line, again, we don't have a lot of pace at the back, to be honest. So I've given you a tip there. If Brucey wants to use that, if he's watching, crack on.
It's, to be fair, it sounds like a really, a very modern way of playing football, doesn't it? It's very like in with what people are doing, and it's maybe the way we should be going. But what I was going to say to you was expectations. I mean, expectations have got to be high at Huddersfield, like they are for us, because for a start, like you said, you get 16, 17, 18,000 crowds. Huddersfield are a team that are comfortably, you've been about 2 seasons in the Prem, comfortably in the Championship, and your owner is very vocal, isn't he? He's very good at keeping the fans what's going on. He's on social media, and so that all ramps up expectations, doesn't it? You've signed a lot of players, you spent a few quid. Are your expectations to be in the top 2?
It's a funny one this season, because like last season we all sort of kind of thought, well, we'll just not automatically be in the top 2, but we were kind of like, yeah, we that's where we need to be. We need to go straight back up. We need to be with Birmingham. This season, I think, because of the not humiliation of last season, but like the humbleness that we'd lost to like Northampton, we'd lost to the likes of Burton, Shrewsbury. I think we kind of thought this season, a lot of fans were like, well, we'll just, if we get on the playoffs, that'll be good. Obviously, the start that we've had, many fans are thinking, right, well, we need to carry on this now. But it's a long season, isn't it, lads? You get to like Christmas, November, December, January, the fixtures come thick and fast, and then that's when you see what your squad's about. And it's not these early, trips away and the first couple of weeks that decide your season. So I think expectations are high, but I think they're also a little bit more realistic than what they were last season because of the humblings that we certainly went through.
Yeah, if you're not at it in this league, you can get turned over by even the bottom 4 or 5, 6. Because they fight for each other, don't they? Especially the scrapping down there, and you've got to be on it. Equality doesn't always come through, does it? You've got to.
No, I mean, we lost to Cambridge at home last season, right near the end of the season. And Gary Monk, who again is another ex-manager that's not a favourite of Town fans, but he came with his team and they just dominated us. And I was just sat there in the stadium and I was like, what is going on? How come we've got to a level where we're being absolutely outplayed by a crap Cambridge team? And you just sit there as football fans.
It happens in League One if you're not on it. And like we found out with Stevenage, when they want it and they know how to play against you, you do face the consequences of that. And silly mistakes get capitalised in most leagues. But in League One, like such a predominant level playing field that there's probably about 16, 17 teams that can beat each other. And then therefore can defend straight afterwards, like Stevenage. They know how to set up to win the game once they've got to that 2-goal lead or something. So it's one of those ones, I suppose. But you've got a much better squad now, haven't you? So
yeah, to be more direct to answer your question, if we don't win the league by 30 points, I'll be fuming.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the same. We just let everyone have a head start.
Definitely.
We really like Exeter, so we just let them score 4 against us. Right.
I'm really glad that I'm playing. I'm really glad, although I'm gutted that I can't be at the game on Saturday. I am so pleased we're playing you for once in August and not flipping February.
Yeah, January or something. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well, Huddersfield's a cold place in January too, isn't it?
It is actually, because we're on a hill. It certainly is.
I used to live in Huddersfield, so I know how cold it gets.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, I did enjoy the trip to Blackpool last year. It was the first game that Dion Charles and Joe Taylor were going to play together, and he did score that fantastic goal, did Taylor, and then kind of after you lads, he kind of pulled up an injury, and he never really got going. And Dion Charles still not scored for us. He missed a penalty the other night.
Oh dear, don't say that.
I won't be playing Saturday, I assume. But any questions for us before we wrap up? We always ask, I guess, if you want to know anything other than probably talk about Steve Bruce potentially.
No, I think the thing for me is like, what's your thoughts on how many games does Bruce get? Because I always think the Blackpool fans are quite like realistic as well. You're not one of these clubs that kind of get above yourself. How like what's the games that you think you get, and then how important is Bloxham to you? Because I would say last season, the game at your place, he was the best player on the pitch by a mile, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, from my point of view,
I'll let you go, Martin, because Martin wanted him out on Saturday, so I'll let Martin go now.
you know when you have that moment where everything is shit, basically, and like nothing's right. Look, I think being totally honest, I think with the investment and with the expectation, he can't lose the first 5 or 6 games, can he? I don't think any manager can. I think even at Cambridge, if you lose 6 in the trot, you've had it these days. That's the way it is. So I think if we were to get turned over by you, and then we've got a tough game against Mansfield, if we were to get well beaten in those 2 games, he's under massive pressure because the owner's invested money and he's a bit of a ruthless so-and-so. And even though he loves Steve Bruce, I think it makes somebody who's quite ruthless more ruthless if they spent a load of money and he's not seeing anything coming from it. So I think he's no different to any other manager. He's under massive pressure. If we were to lose, say, the first 5, we're already out of the cup, so it's not a good look. And secondly, Bloxham is a really good player. Just come back from injury. He had a few niggling injuries since he's been with us. But if he gets fit and firing in the team, he's for the money we paid for him, which I think was Tom 200-300 grand,
200k, yeah, I think.
What's it from?
For me, a bargain.
Yeah. Nah, from Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
I just my caveat with Bloxham is he hasn't looked the same since getting that injury, and I just hope he can, like Martin, to get back to the standard he was, because he was an outstanding bit of creativity that we desperately need in a 4-4-2. If you don't have much creativity in a 4-4-2, you look even worse than if you played 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, in my opinion. But we'll see. For me, for Bruce, I'm like Martin. I think if you go 6 or 7 games without getting a win, like you're naturally under pressure. But it's his last season in football, so there's 2 things. He will either walk away, in my personal opinion, because he is a proud man, but he'll know what's right for the club at that point. If he really isn't getting it right, I think he'll just go, let's give it to someone else because I'm not working for you, and it is my last season in football. I don't think
I think
he said it's his last season in football.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I'm wrong, Martin.
He's got a contract to the end of the season, and the way he was talking was that he didn't expect to maybe go anywhere else. So I would say,
I don't know if he has said it. I feel
not
like
in
I've
so
read
many
somewhere
words,
saying,
but
yeah,
that's
I think
him.
it's
I mean, if
basically
we
alludes
went
to the
up,
fact this is his last season in football. Yeah, and if we do go up, he might want to give us a crack and set the foundations for that. But it's up to Blackpool to have a sort of a cohesive plan to say if Bruce does go, is this next manager coming in? Ian Evatt used to play for us. He had relative success at Bolton. Will he come in as an example? You've just got to have those irons in the fire just in case it doesn't go to plan, which we've stung with in the past when Critchley left the first time around. So, yeah, for me, I think any football manager, you can't go 20, sort of 15 to 18 points behind the league leaders and still expect to sort of get automatic. So I don't believe it will come to that. We've seen more shocking things in football and it might not go our way this season, but we're certainly building a squad which has those expectations for sure.
Two wins can change it, can't it? 2 wins can change it straight away.
What's your view of us then, and how are you guys feeling? Because obviously I'm buzzing. I think we'll turn up to your place.
Going into tomorrow, I'm not looking forward to it. As a whole, you've recruited exceptionally well, and you've got rid of big wages and attitudes which weren't cutting it. You were appalling last season. I think we should have turned you over much better at Bloomfield Road than we did to let those 2 goals go in, and then you look like we're sort of winning and had that momentum in the end, didn't you? So I think this year your expectations should be top 6, and I think if Lee Grant continues to flex his muscles a little bit, you'll only strengthen in January, and you've got some fantastic players like Alfie May and Harness and all those players, like you said, who know what to do. So you're too big of a club not to finish in the playoffs, mate, and I expect that to be the minimum.
I'm looking forward to it because I think Stevenage and Exeter and Port Vale, they're exactly the sort of games we lose, and we seem to be a lot better when we play you lot at Bolton, those sort of teams. Last season when we went to Wrexham last season, and we probably should have won. We should have won at Birmingham. We seem to be better against the better teams. We have to get our head around playing Stevenage and Exeter. But we said before, I'd rather be playing you tomorrow than Northampton. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
big game. You're bringing loads.
Which what a game we'll be up for, like the 2-2. Like if we had a 2-2 game tomorrow, and it was back and forth, and then we move on to Mansfield and get victory, our season started. But if we play like we did against Exeter and we lose 5-0, like there will be massive questions asked.
If you smash us to bits tomorrow, then it's very worrying. Yeah, definitely.
Bruce out chance.
Not yet. Not yet.
I've got too much respect for Bruce to even treat him like that. I mean, even if it doesn't work out, I hope for God he would walk away to say sorry, but it didn't work this time around. I think he receives too much hatred. I think every ex-pro that speaks about him, bar Dwight Gale, who's obviously a prolific goal scorer at Premiership level, speaks really highly of him. There was loads of like Talk Sport players like Benty and Jermaine Pennant and a few others saying like he knew how to treat your players and he's a top class man. And if it doesn't work out because that's just the way it is, then it doesn't work out. But I wanted us to get Wellens before him, and I think that ship might have sailed. I'm not too sure, but I want to make sure if we do replace him, we go with a decent manager or one that is exciting, in my opinion, like Lee Grant and Neil Critchley first time around. But I, for one, want him to stay with us all season and have a fair crack at it, providing we're there or thereabouts.
Do you want my prediction?
Go on.
I think top 6.
No, I meant for tomorrow.
I
don't know if you do predictions on this show. I don't know.
You give your prediction all you want. I think I've already given you mine, which I think you'll have too much quality early on for us tomorrow, and I think we'll lose 3-1. I don't like to be pessimistic all the time, but you've just got such a good squad, and we're still binding positions, and we haven't got Coulson's injured. The Lions isn't great. The centre backs don't look sharp at the moment, and the midfield is not really quite working out. So.
Apart from that,
we'll see. Apart from that, we're playing really well. But no, I think you'll just have a bit too much quality because we're not clicking yet. So I'll go 3-1 Huddersfield. Martin?
1-1.
Steve?
1-1. I'll go Town for Blackpool 1. And please play Peacock Fadler because he's one of the worst keepers in the league.
So you can see that. How come our manager doesn't see it?
Mate, it's even worse that Bruce can't see it because I'm registered blind and I can see it.
I think Peacock Farrell's registered blind, but there you go.
Well,
It was
we
the
can
save
test-
down
we
at
can test
Port
that
Vale. The ball
tomorrow.
was going like in the bottom corner, and he took like 9 minutes to get down and used his forearm to palm it away. I didn't really quite understand it, but he'll probably play tomorrow, and you'll be pleased. He'll
That'd
probably
be
have a
good.
worldie now, mate. Alfie May misses a penalty, and Taylor gets
Yeah,
hat-trick, so
Karma's
No,
done
Alfie
for
May
you
doesn't.
now.
Alfie May doesn't miss penalties. Dion Charles misses penalties, but Alfie May doesn't miss penalties. 4-1 anyway, and
It'll
and
be
a nice
lively anyway, won't it? It won't be boring. Won't be
Oh
boring.
no, but I think you will. I think you will score. To be fair, you'll be the
that'll be
first team
first
to
league
score
goal
again.
conceded. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe 4-4. Why not? I'll get extra bonus points. Right. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for all the listeners and the hundreds that viewed this evening. Please continue to subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Steve, thank you for joining us. It's been a delight to hear about your wonderful football club, how you're winning every single game without conceding goals. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, no problem. And Town fans, please do get involved. The ones that are going on Saturday in the round of applause for the chaplets,
Lou Parker,
obviously,
yeah,
very sadly
71st minute, yeah.
passed away because, like you were saying, football fans, we have to stick together and show respect when a fellow fan, is lost. So, hope Town fans do that. And we normally do that. So, yeah.
You're bringing a good contingent, so there should be a good atmosphere around that sort of time as well. Martin, fingers crossed for a more optimistic pod, hopefully on Monday, if not after we review both games on Wednesday.
Let's hope so. Yeah. Cheers
In the chat, and cheers everybody for joining in, and we'll see you again very soon.